talk about that later. Temple is a great school. I'm glad you could be here. Those of you who are from other schools, we welcome you as well. We have a great show tonight. I'm just going to name our panelists, and I'll get a little bit more into their careers in a little bit. We have Pat Delsey out at the end, and next to the end, who's the former owner of WSSJ Radio and now WEMG in Camden. Doug Henderson, who's an account executive for Clear Channel, formerly an air personality. We'll get more deeply into that because that doesn't describe it at all. Liz Mack, currently an associate for Charlotte Felcher PR in Philadelphia, again, an extensive and varied career. Linda Munich, Vice President of Public Affairs for 6ABC, WPVI. Steve Ross, talk host on WHYY-TV Radio and a former rock jock on Famous 56 WHYY, among others. And Mara Taff, Executive Producer and Creative Services for Channel 6 WPVI. So that's our panel. I'll introduce them a little more in depth in a few minutes. First, I'm going to turn it over for a few words from Chairman of Broadcast Pioneers, Gerry Wilkinson.
Right now, you're making contacts that will last you a lifetime. Jerry and I went to college together here, about years ago. Let's put it this way. My last semester was when they opened this building, and he was the last student station. What's that?
I emceed the opening broadcast.
That's absolutely true. Some of our Broadcast Pioneers members are people that we went to school with. There's about 20 of us. So you're making contacts that will last you a lifetime, that may help you in your career. You may be at one station, someone at another, but they can let you know of opportunities. When I went to WDAS, I went there because of a college friend of mine in Shockey, who got his job because I was producing a radio program and the guest couldn't make it. So I called up Ed, woke him up on a Saturday morning and said, I need a guest. He started to talk about WDAS FM. Little did we know, someone called the program director and they called us live on the air. Make a long story short, that Monday, Ed went to talk to Hudlid, who hired Ed Shockey. Ed told me of an opportunity. I got into DAS. Ed got himself fired. I got him hired back. When I was looking for work in 1980, old college buddy of mine, Ed Cunningham, who we went to college with, said, here's an opportunity here at WHYY. There are so many contacts. Keep in touch with your people. It's really very important.
Great. Thank you, Jerry. That's great advice. I want to acknowledge a very special person who has joined us tonight, actually two very special people. One is Kal Rudman, and the other is his wife, Lucille. Kal is a vice president and board member of Broadcast Pioneers. But more important to those of you who are Temple students, Kal and his wife, Lucille, through their foundation, donated the money to launch the Kal and Lucille Rudman Media Production Center right here in Annenberg Hall, which, as you know, is the home of TUTV, Temple University Television. Kal was inducted into the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame in 1998, and he was our Person of the Year in 2007. He has also been a major underwriter of our Broadcast Pioneer scholarships that we award every year. And by the way, the scholarship winners will be chosen at a meeting tomorrow. So if any of you are, have your name in there, cross your fingers and good luck. I'd like to ask Kal to just say a few words. A few words.
I don't want to break my arm patting myself on the back. I did not attend has been around a long time. However, I won a fellowship to Temple and became an expert in psychopathology and education of brain-injured and emotionally disturbed and mentally retarded, and the world-famous reading clinic of Temple. And at that time, generations ago, I don't use the word decades anymore, at that time everybody thought about Penn in terms of being up there where the air is rare. But Temple, once you got 60 miles outside of Philadelphia, even then, Temple was heavy. Today, it's up there with the top universities in the nation. And there was a vacuum, no television station. I won't go into the permutations and combinations. And in giving money through the foundation, I can tell you something you can hardly believe. There are instances when it's been harder for me to give and have it all work out than it was to make it. And the success story has been huge. Radio, where I started on the air in Philadelphia, which then was the #4 market in the United States. But they claim that Houston and Dallas are ahead of the greater Delaware Valley area. Don't believe that it's a lie. Really. The suburbs of Houston, I claim, reach all the way to the Pacific Ocean and are listed as part of Houston. So we have to know this. And my #1, I'm getting now right to the point. My number, if it were possible to follow my twisted path, which kept moving up, it would be very difficult to emulate. I don't think it could happen again. But think, you saw the movie, the signing of stars for the pro football. One line, follow the money. And the money you're going to follow is the sales department. And now the route that you follow to become sales manager and then Vice-President, President of Channel 6, who just happens to be a graduate of this school. So, beyond the equipment Lucille and I purchased for having cutting edge of Temple's TV station, where we sent students over to England and did broadcast the Olympics. Now, nobody would believe that, but that's the level for those who don't know that. Now, that's about all I will say at this point.
For those of you who don't know who Kal Rudman is, look him up on the internet. It'll open your eyes. All right, I'm going to now go one by one with our panel. And as I have done for the last several years, I'm going to ask them all the same question. What is the best advice that you can give to these young people who are embarking on a career in broadcasting? I'm going to go alphabetically, and we're going to start with Pat Delsey. Pat has been in broadcasting for nearly 60 years and has worked at more radio and TV stations than we have time to mention. He's a former general manager of WCAN and former owner of WSSJ. He's currently president of PDS Broadcasting Inc., a radio TV management consulting firm, and PDS Entertainment Company, providing complete entertainment packages for theaters, nightclubs, and social functions. Pat is a past president and past chairman of the board of Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia. He continues to serve the organization as treasurer, and he has been inducted into the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame. Pat is also president of the Philadelphia Press Association, representing members of the Delaware Valley News Media, newspapers, radio, TV, and wire services. He is a past president and chairman of the board and a current member of the board of the New Jersey Broadcasters Association. This is a man that any aspiring broadcaster can learn from. So Pat, what's the best advice that you can give these students?
For starters, I would like to say that I wish each and every one of you here the enjoyment that I have had over my 59 years. This coming September, I'll be celebrating my 60th year in this wild, crazy business, and yet I never worked a day in my life. It was always something that I looked forward, getting up to go to work. But it wasn't work. They paid me, thankfully, but I never worked a day in my life. And I wish each and every one of you that kind of an activity where you're always passionate, like you are right now, passionate about this field of broadcasting because it is wild and woolly and it has everything you could imagine for you in the future. How many of you are freshmen? How many are sophomores? How many are juniors? And how many are seniors? Of all of you, how many of you right now are doing something, either an internship or maybe working at some part of the business? Raise your hands. Good, I'm very happy to see that. I'm sad to see that not all of you, for example, every senior should have been doing something on an internship basis already. And to you freshmen and sophomore, I suggest you don't wait for anybody to come to you, go to them and get involved in doing something in broadcasting as quickly as you can. In your summer activity, do it then, but you don't wait for the summer break. Do it while you're attending classes. You can find a minute or two, maybe an hour or two in the evening or on the weekends, but go out tomorrow if you can, as soon as you can. Contact all the radio stations in the area, go to the TV stations asking for an opportunity to be an intern, but even if you become a coffee getter, do it. Get involved and get in a position where you're dealing with people who are already in the business. It will help you immensely when you graduate. And actually, if you have a chance to get into the intern activity for maybe 2 years, 2 summers, by the time you're ready to graduate, you'll have a polish on you, on your delivery system, that will put you in a position to go to almost any station. Obviously, you might have to start at some of the smaller radio or some of the smaller TV stations as an entrance factor, but it will put you in good stead to do that. So make sure that you get involved as quickly as you can. And another thing, whatever you want to be aware that you might not necessarily become that. You might be that for a period of time, but you'll be able to do other things in the industry that you never thought or dreamed you would. My love, my passion when I first started thinking about being in broadcasting, I love music. I wanted to be a DJ. That was my main thrust, my main activity. I wanted to be a disc jockey and play music, you know, every day for 4 hours, and that would make me very, very happy. And it did. However, at the stations, when I first started, you were hired to be a disc jockey. You were on the air for a couple of hours, but you also had a shift, which meant you had to do news, you had to do interviews, you had to do sports, you had to do, and empty the trash can too at night. But you had to do so many different things, and for me, that was a blessing, because it gave me a foundation to do a variety of activities in this field, in broadcasting. Matter of fact, I did Temple football. I broadcast Temple football for a dozen years, way back in the 70s. And did things because of broadcasting that I probably would never have done in my life. We did, for example, I mentioned the Temple football. One of the games that we did for Temple was a scheduled game between Temple and Boston College. The only unusual thing was the game was going to be played in Tokyo. Temple and Boston College were invited by the Mitsubishi Company to play what they called then the Mirage Bowl. And it was to promote a car that they had just put out on the market, the Mirage car by Mitsubishi. So they invited and paid for all of the Temple football team, the band, the cheerleaders, and of course all the coaches. And luckily they needed a broadcast activity team, and Dan Baker and I did the broadcast from Tokyo back to Philadelphia. As a matter of fact, at that time it was, and I still think it is, the only local station, because networks have done that, many times from everywhere in the world, but it was the only local station that produced and broadcast a broadcast from outside of our continent, from another continent. And we had the pleasure of doing that whenever we went to one of those places, we also did a documentary. So I had a 3-hour documentary prior to the game, broadcast from Tokyo, interviewing the people in Tokyo, the legislators in the city, and also interviewing our people from Temple to find out their thoughts of what they saw and felt when they were in Tokyo. So it gives you an opportunity to do things you just dream about from time to time. We also broadcast from China. We did 5 basketball games from China, from Shanghai, Canton, Beijing, and Foshan. And this was for Drexel University. Drexel, again, was invited to play 5 games in China at the different cities. And I can remember Bill Harriet, who at that time was one of the new coaches in Philadelphia, calling the teams in China asking for video. Please send us a video of your teams. And we played, as I said, 5 games. One was a college team, that was Beijing Sports University, but the other 4 teams were what they called military teams. So they were older than typical college player. And Bill requested, faxed them, emailed them to get a video of their team. And they said, we don't have videos. And we knew they did, but they wouldn't send a video of their team so you wouldn't know how good or bad they were. So maybe the week before we left at a meeting, after they had tried and couldn't get an answer, they said, well, how good can they be, number one, and how big can they be? Chinese people aren't necessarily big. This before Mao, was involved. But we went there thinking that they can't be that big and they can't be that good. Well, in the first game, first of all, every team that they played, all 5 teams, had at least 1, and most of them 2, over 7 foot. Okay, 7-footers or better. And in the first game, they had a young guard who hit 16 threes, to give you an idea how good they were. But again, these are things that you, in this industry, whatever you want to do right now, whether it's the disc jockey, news, investigative reporter, whatever you have in your dream right now, think that you're not going to do that, and you'll be able to do so many other activities within this field. Enjoy it, and anything we can do to help, I'm very happy.
Thank you, Pat. If you ever have a chance, spend a few hours with this guy. He has more stories that are even more interesting than that. To Pat's right is Doug Henderson, Jr. Doug is the son of the legendary Philadelphia and New York disc jockey Jocko Henderson. But Doug is an accomplished broadcaster in his own right. In the late 70s, Doug started at WDAS FM, the same station where his father had pioneered in the 50s and 60s. He piloted the highly competitive afternoon drive slot at WDAS-FM for 16 years. During that time, the station became the first FM radio station in Philadelphia history to reach #1 in the market. Doug also produced, scripted, and programmed one of the first of its kind urban format video shows called City Sounds, which aired in 50 markets nationwide. And that effort launched the careers of many of today's prominent recording artists. Doug currently oversees the operations of Henderson and Houston Incorporated, distributors of Get Ready educational products. Get Ready merges contemporary rap music with approved educational material and is marketed to institutional, consumer, and corporate outlets worldwide to solidify basic cognitive skills in school-age children. And Doug is also an account exec for Clear Channel.
And the first thing I have to do is edit that bio. Well, welcome everyone, aspiring communications students. I'll answer the question with a question to you. How many people are aspiring to be on-air talent, television, radio, digital? Show of hands. How many people want to be directors, producers? Okay, how many people just don't know? and that is a good assumption, because it takes time to feel your way and navigate your own path. How many people ever thought about a career in broadcast sales and marketing? All right, interesting. My advice to you all, supplement your communication courses with as many business courses as you conceivably can. I have a theory, I call it R&B. It's not rhythm and blues, it's rhythm and business, baby. Right? So supplement with as many business courses that way, in case the position behind the microphone or in front of the camera that you're aspiring for isn't available. You still have a skill set to get a position inside of the station. Now, I work for Clear Channel Entertainment and Media. They own 850 radio stations across the country, 6 stations locally, including WDAS AM, Philly's best R&B and classic soul, WDAS FM, Power 99, Q102, Radio 104.5. And corresponding with the radio stations, everything is digital now. Everything is digital. When I first started, we played records. For those of you that don't know, those are those big round things that have grooves in them. You put the needle to the groove and you can scratch it up and have some great music. Saw the transition to CDs. Now everything is totally digital, particularly at a company like Clear Channel. They own one of the subsidiary companies called Profit, which has all of the records that you're going to play without deviation. You're going to play them in that order. Then there's a place where you can say hello and say who you are and do a station promo. Hear the commercials that you're going to play. Then there's an automated button. You can put it on auto and go home, and it will still play the continuity of the show. But supplement your communications courses with as many business courses, and as Pat said, you want to try to actively gain some internships. There's a young lady by the name of Lorraine Ballard-Morrow that works at Clear Channel here in Philadelphia that coordinates the internship program at Clear Channel. It is a 4-credit program, so it would probably be better for underclassmen than for the seniors that are assembled here. But definitely check that out. You work with all phases of the broadcast station to see how they work independently and collaboratively. We're talking about programming, sales and marketing, public relations, promotions, news, and a lot of the support staff as well. So, hey, dream big. You know, as Pat said, it's a great career to be able to work 4 hours a day and have fun with what you're doing. Everything has changed now. I started working at WDAS back in 1975 until 2009. I took a job in sales in 2006, and for the first 3 years, I was working Monday through Friday full-time in sales and marketing at Clear Channel, and then I had live air shifts on DAS FM Saturday and Sunday, and then I was in the building 7 days a week for 3 years. Sounds crazy, but no, you know, it was such a passion to be on the air. And you see what's happening in radio now, particularly. A lot of it is moving towards syndication, towards voice tracking, towards automation, particularly with a big company like Clear Channel. But it's given rise to radio stars like Steve Harvey. You see how he blew up. He was doing radio for a while, local radio. Now he's syndicated nationally on various stations. More recently, he moved over to television with the talk show and the Family Feud. So those possibilities do exist. Where are the possibilities for the future? They rely on digital platforms that are rapidly developing. What's the most listened to radio station in the world? Pandora. Pandora is the most listened to radio station in the world. Clear Channel has its version of Pandora on steroids. It's called iHeartRadio. Anybody familiar? iHeartRadio. So you can still create your customized station like you would with Pandora. But then a note will pop up saying, hey, if you like this artist, here's one of our 850 stations across the station that plays this artist. Why don't you get a chance to check it out? So you can tune in to stations in LA, Florida, and New York, all through your laptop, your desktop, your tablet, and your smartphone. So very elaborate stuff, but I think that's where the real opportunities for growth and creativity exist in the future on the digital platform. So again, I worked at WDAS AM and FM, did a little Power 99, and smooth jazz, WJJZ, but business courses, and more business courses, and actively seek internships.
That's great advice, Doug. Thank you very much. Let's turn now to Liz Matt. Liz Matt is a graduate of the School of Communications here at Temple. She studied documentary filmmaking and developed a reputation for her multi-dimensional contributions as a writer, producer, and performer. She became the host and producer of the New Jersey Network's State of the Arts program, and later handled on-the-air positions with Evening Magazine at KYW3 and Good Day Philadelphia at Fox 29. For many years, Liz was known by her stage name, Elizabeth Starr, as co-host of 6ABC's AM Philadelphia alongside Wally Kennedy. Liz has served as an adjunct professor of broadcast performance here at Temple and as an adjunct professor of video production and editing at Whiteman University. She has also written and produced numerous corporate videos for many of the company's best-known major corporations, and she's currently an account associate at Charlotte Felcher Public Relations in Philadelphia. Liz Matt is a very special person at Broadcast Pioneers. As a student, she received one of the scholarships that we award every year to promising communication students. And last year, she became the first Broadcast Pioneers scholarship winner to be inducted into our Hall of Fame.
Hello, friends. Thank you. I've been asked to address something Jerry raised. What is the single most important piece of information I can give you that I hope you hold close in your heart? And it took me a long time to learn this, so I really want you to mull it over and remember it. None of us makes money unless we make somebody else money. If somebody is supportive of your career, wants to give you a job, they believe in you, but really, they believe you will make the money. You don't necessarily make them rich, you help them keep their jobs. A lot of the things I'm going to say here on in have to do with that combination of passion to be a communicator and a creative individual, but who's got to function in the world of making money to live and helping somebody else make their money to live so we can stay in the game. A lot of you are dreaming of coming out of school and getting hired in an entry-level position. An entry-level position that has benefits, ideally. A lot of people need to understand that you will make your living in this business as a freelancer your entire career. I had 25 years on the air as a broadcaster, on the air behind the scenes as a writer, as a producer. Of my 25 years in the business, only 13 was I on staff. 10.5 years I was at Channel 6, and about 2.5 of the 4 years I was at Channel 3. All the rest of the time, working for Channel 3, working for Fox, working for New Jersey Network, I was freelance. Nobody knew, it didn't look any different on the air, but that meant I was in business for myself. I paid my own taxes. I had to keep track of my expenses. I had to think like a business person, even though for creative people, that's often very counterintuitive. But I want to encourage you to understand that it's very possible to build a creative life as a freelancer. In fact, for Charlotte Felcher Public Relations, I hold a business card. I am a freelancer. So you can have a good life in a creative world, but I want you to think about the fact that you very likely will be in business. So I'm going to tell you a couple other things that will help you with that. When you're a freelancer, you're always networking. And I want to give you some good advice about networking that will be particularly useful to those of you who are just coming out of school, even if you are pursuing that dream full-time job with benefits on staff. But this applies to all of it. As a person who goes on an informational interview, what do you want to accomplish? Believe it or not, you don't want to ask somebody for a job on an informational interview. I want you to learn from, you could even write this guy's name down or see me afterwards. There's a guy who writes great books about sales. His name is Jeffrey Gitomer. And he writes terrific books about how to be a sales professional, be successful. But he has a wonderful book called The Little Black Book of Connections. And I stole a few ideas out of his little black book to share with you about networking. Be friendly first. Everything else falls into place. What you want to walk out of an informational interview with are some narratives, some stories. We've already heard about Pat being willing to take out the trash. We heard about Doug being willing to work, even as a seasoned professional, work 7 days a week when it suited his ambitions and his goals. You want to come away from an informational interview with an understanding of what successful people were willing to do to become successful, to get where they wanted to go. And then you want to carry yourself with enough confidence so that the person who's spending time with you feels like their time was well spent. No connection is ever made without some sort of risk. So it's the risk to make the call. It's the risk to go in and look someone in the eye, shake their hands. And by the way, I can't believe that I actually need to teach people how to shake hands, but when you shake hands, see this part of this, and this part of this, they touch. None of this. None of this. That's a great piece of advice I can give you, especially if you're going to work in the freelance world. You would need networking all the time. So people only refer people who make them look good. That's a variation on we only get jobs when we make other people money. When you come out of an informational interview, if somebody has liked you, they feel confident about what you may be able to do for somebody they know, they very well may refer you at some point. And it may not be instant. It could be weeks. It could be years. But if they remember the fact that you were gracious, intelligent, confident, and paid attention to them, they very well may refer you. But they only refer people who make them look good. The Freelancers Union was established, you can look this up, freelancersunion.org. This is the place where people in my business get benefits. It's a way to get health benefits at a more affordable rate. So look up the Freelancers Union. It's just good information for you to prepare yourself for a future possibly as a freelancer. I have a 5-year rule, and I'm going to share that with you right now. The 5-year rule is that it's not one of those odious things like, I'm sure you've been at events where people say, well, look at the person next to you, and like, they're going to be gone. Like, out of this whole room, only 1 in 3 is going to stay in business. So, I think that's sort of an unfriendly way to operate. I want every one of you to have a career. On the other hand, of the big funnel of people coming out of Temple, LaSalle, Drexel, Villanova, Fordham University where my son went, NYU, USC, Northwestern, Boston College, huge funnel. Those who are willing to do what it takes for 5 years have a very good chance to get a career established and to make it. Why is it 5 years? Well, the reality of a lot of people in their student loans is they can't do 2 jobs, they can't postpone making money, so they go into something where it's a sure fit to pay the student loans. And I understand that. But like one guy I know who I really like, who recently went into heavy equipment sales, but he's a terrific kid and would be a great broadcast salesman. I said to him, get your chops in sales, learn your sales, and then try to bring that over to broadcast sales. So you can still get back in the game. Don't give it up. But those people get out of line. Then the people who get out of line real early are the ones who say, you know what, I want a nice car. I want to go to Cancun, you know? And the people who are willing to postpone gratification, delayed gratification, they have the best chance of making it. So if you are willing to work on the side, have part-time jobs, do what it takes, live lean. I didn't own a car till I was 30. I organized a life so that I could make it work that way. I made sure I lived where I could use a TransPass and actually establish my entire career with a TransPass. I didn't have a car until I actually got a job 40 miles away, and I had to have a car. So be willing to get your foot in the door. There was a broadcaster I worked with at Channel 29, Fox. She was an anchor, terrific woman. She was very excited to be working as an anchor in Philadelphia. Whatever market she had come from before, she actually was a waitress on the side. She was an anchor woman in like a pretty good city. I don't know, Savannah, something like that. She was a waitress too. So whatever illusions you have about how special your anchor lady life is, or your anchorman life is, let's get real here. She wanted it so much to be a waitress while she was also on the air. I admire that, and I also know that that's why she had a career. So I want to encourage all of you to be very clear about what is it you're willing to do. I want to end with two more thoughts. I'm not the glibest person in the world, by the way. I was a writer. That's why I have notes. I faked my way through live broadcasting for years by being a really good writer and writing in a conversational style. I can teach any of you that in 5 minutes here. Okay, so the 5-year plan. What are you willing to do to survive and make it happen? thefreelancersunion.org. And finally, the big New York Times article recently about endless interning, about people who will hire you for years for no pay. You have to have that waitressing job, that other job, the day job, if you want to do that interning. But there comes a point where you have to value yourself and do those internships. We're talking about after you're out of school. Who saw Girls, the opening episodes of the TV show Girls? She had like a 2-year internship and her parents fired her from that, right? They had every right to do that. Don't get caught in that mess. You do it for a while, but do the other things that it's necessary to do to build a career. And it takes 5 years, not 2 years, because every year, every May, the funnel opens up again with the new graduates, and there's also the people ahead of you who are getting ahead. So it's about a 5-year plan, but if you're still talented, hardworking, and determined, in 5 years, you will have established yourself. And I just want you to believe in yourselves. You may not have a nice car, you may have no car. You may have no vacations. You'll have the start of the things where people send you to fancy places to be a broadcaster. And I got to broadcast from London, from Paris, from, I can't even tell you how many places Channel 6 sent me, from Ireland, all on their dime. I worked very hard when I was there. I never got to have those jobs where you work 4 hours a day. I think I worked 10 hours a day all the time, but I wouldn't have given it back for anything. And also believe that if you're dyslexic like I am and you aren't glib, if you're a good writer, you can still have a workaround. I'm the queen of the workarounds, and I encourage you all. And if anybody is too shy, come see me afterwards too, because I'm very happy to help shy people, because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was fortunate to have a perfect storm of talents, being something of a performer, something of a writer, and definitely a hard worker. It served me well. So thank you.
Thanks, Liz. You see why this lady is so special. Our next panelist is Linda Muir. Linda is a graduate of the School of Music here at Temple, but most of her career has been in the television, public, and community affairs arena in Philadelphia. She produced, directed, and hosted news and public affairs programs at WHYY-TV, Channel 48. In 1983, she moved over to WDAS-TV, now known as 6ABC, as a producer of various public affairs programs, including Good Morning, which she also hosted, producer of the award-winning Visions program, hosted by Action News reporter Vernon Odom, and producer and host of Perspective. Since 1991, Linda has been Vice President of Public Affairs at 6ABC. But for her, public affairs is not just a job, it's a way of life. She's been involved with numerous community organizations, including Settlement Music School, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, Philadelphia, and the United Way. She's been also involved in many of our Broadcast Pioneers events for college students, including our symposiums and our career nights. And she's a member of our scholarship committee, which will be making some very important decisions tomorrow. Most important, for us at least, Linda Munich is a member of the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame.
Hi, everyone. I'm trying to look tall in this chair. No, I do. Well, to follow all this brilliant advice that has preceded me, let me give you a 2.5 minute, I'll try to keep it to that background. I got into broadcasting when I was 31 years old, and that was 40 years ago. And before that, I had half a dozen different jobs, none of them a career. I considered, when I got into the business of broadcasting, an opportunity. I wanted to be a trumpet player when I was here at the College of Music. I did a lot of trumpet playing, but no one was hiring female trumpet players in 1964. So, I am still working full-time. I did 9 hours before I came here, and so I say that only that it's true that it doesn't feel like work. I think everyone here is nodding their head. And the variety of expressions that I enjoyed while working in broadcasting, I was on air. People thought I was crazy to leave it, but I like running things. So I aim to be a manager. I like deciding what goes on television. I fell in love with television, ready, in 1948. We had 3 television sets in my house. My dad made them. And nothing fascinated me more. I would never have moved because, believe it or not, even in 1948, you got to see political conventions. You had Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. You ever hear this? Do you study history of television here? Do you know anything about these ancient shows and how television grew up? Well, these days at 6ABC, I manage the internship program. I bought cards. Do not come begging me if you're a senior in your last semester and you want an internship. They're closed for the summer. And I tell you that I manage it because it's a lot of managing. We must have received, for summer internships, over 100 and some applications. I do not do one-on-one interviews anymore. I do group interviews. It's very important for the producers, and I invite the producers in, where I used to do them by myself, because you want to see a dynamic, you want to see an interested student who has thought about it, who asks good questions, who is interested and interesting. Write that down if you're writing things down. To be interested is critical, which means that you didn't show up without knowing what 6ABC does and where it stands in the market and what the opportunities are there. It's all online. We're not just, we call ourselves D1 at 6ABC. We have D2, Digital 2 operation, Digital 3 operation, and who thought it could ever get busy? But every day there's a new challenge, a new project. And our station is one that operates in concert a lot, meaning all of the departments are involved in a project. I'm going to let Mara give you those details. Knowing the business, I want to emphasize. Liz, but know the business you're getting into. I want you to raise your hand if you know what business television stations are in. Go ahead.
Ratings?
Close. Very good. Who taught you that?
I've been studying.
Collecting eyeballs, and that is ratings. Everything rests on that. Okay. And learn how to research so you present yourself as someone who could possibly write a script, research a a topic to produce a special. Very often I have young people who come to interview and they're silent. They don't ask a question. When they're asked a question, they don't know how to formulate a response. This is a business of writing, talking, and making inquiries, and being able to go after answers. Oh, I'm going to keep it short, so you guys have enough time to ask the questions that I'm sure you have.
Thank you very much, Linda. Our next panelist here is Steve Ross. Steve has spent more than 3 decades as a broadcaster in both radio and television. In his native Philadelphia, he's performed as on-air radio talent at WFIL, WIBG, WIOQ, WWPB, WCAU, WXTU, WIP, WPEN, WYSB, and WZZD, and perhaps a few others I didn't mention.
In other words, I've never been a station I could not ruin.
He actually just can't hold a job. His television background included producing and co-hosting the groundbreaking sports talk program Eagles Cheers, televised on Channel 57. This show was the first confrontational sports telecast anywhere, and of course it spawned numerous imitators. Steve has been the track announcer at Garden State Park, Philadelphia Park, and Liberty Bell Park. He was executive producer and co-host of Keeping Track, a national radio program devoted to the thoroughbred horse racing. That was broadcast in about 100 markets. Currently, Steve serves as co-host, along with former Philadelphia Eagles general manager Jim Murray, of the popular nostalgia radio program Remember When, that airs Saturday nights on the Big Talker, 1210 WPHT. He's also president of the Good Group Incorporated, a New Jersey media concepts firm that specializes in the development of broadcast projects, marketing and advertising strategies, media buying, production, and the creation of custom jingles. Steve?
Clearly, I can't hold a job. That's obvious. But the idea is getting the job. Holding it's another story. And I would like to talk to you fertile minds, except we have hit the ceiling as far as words that have come out of people's mouths preceding me. So that's it. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I think everybody wants to get into this business because it's better than working for a living. It's fun, and fun is still the best thing to have. And probably that's why everybody's decided to go into this business, because I, like everybody else in this panel, can say that as long as I've been doing broadcasting, it's never been work. And it really isn't. Because imagine people pay for doing the things that we do, that we would do for free. So it's pretty amazing. What I would suggest to everyone out here, all you fertile minds, is to absorb, be a sponge, and absorb all the information that is being disseminated here by people that have already traveled the road that you will travel but not yet have. It's great advice. And they say that youth is wasted on the young. So absorb the things you're hearing today, because people have traveled that road. And it's a wonderful business. If I had to give you one piece of advice, it would be diversify. Because the more things you bring to the party, the more likely you are to be hired. And if something comes up and somebody says, can you do so-and-so? Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, it's the only answer. Don't say, well, no, it's not really my thing, or I can't go there, You don't want to do that, because you become a very valuable commodity if you are the go-to person. And if people think you're the go-to person, then they'll keep going to you. And you will keep going up that ladder until you achieve what you want to achieve. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, I wanted to be a DJ, a rock DJ, like my hero, Kal Rudman. And all I wanted to do was play records. That's those little things with the hole in the middle, you put a shuck in them. And it was funny because I did everything like Pat Delsey said, he did everything. He cleaned up, he played records, he did everything to do around a radio station, and that's what you really have to do. But I learned, I'm more or less a jack of all trades, master of none. I've done a lot of things that I necessarily haven't been trained to do, but I picked up on it because of my enthusiasm. I wanted to achieve. So when somebody said to me, have you ever done play-by-play of soccer matches? My immediate answer was, I can do that. I never did, but I learned real quick. You know, when I used to go to the racetrack because I enjoyed going to the track. And I went to Liberty Bell, and the publicity director there had asked me one day, have you ever given any thought to being a track announcer? You know, the guy calling the races when horses come in. I go, well, I can do that. And I went up on the roof of the track, and I called races into one of those old things called cassette decks. And I would call races one after another. And I finally got the job. I wasn't trained in that field, but I was able to do it because I said I could do that. Don't put limitations on yourself. Say I can do that. And if you're open to it and receptive enough, you'll find you can. The other thing I would suggest is, if you're going for a job and you know in your heart of hearts you're not qualified for that gig, you're not going to get it. Because if you can't convince yourself that you're, oh yeah, this is me. And some of you will also, there'll be a certain gig that'll come up and you'll go, that has got my name written all over that bad boy. And you may not get it, but you know in your heart you are certainly qualified to get that job. So believe in yourself. Do not have an overinflated opinion of your own self-worth. Because everybody gets into the business. They start at the beginning and they go, that's right, I'm the man. And you find out years later you're not the man. And I'll just quote one thing. A man that was my mentor, Long John Wade. I know you don't remember that name, WFIL, was a boss job. And when I was in the business about barely 2 years, and I was at WIBG, Whitman's Radio 99, and I was hired to do weekends. I was working at a station in Atlantic City, WMID, and then I got offered the weekends at Whitman, which paid me more money to do 2 weekend shifts than 2 weeks in Atlantic City. I came up and I got the gig, and then I got the overnight gig within like 4 months. And it was good money and everything else, and it was great and wonderful and everything else. Long John Wade was working at the radio station too. And him and I were sitting on the couch downstairs one day, and I said, hey, Long John, how about this? You know, you're my mentor, this and that, and I'm not even in the business 2 years. And here we are working at the same radio station. How about that? And he had this look of disdain on his face. And he was like, going to give me the whole snot-nosed kid routine. And he said, let me tell you something, Steve, this will serve you well if you take these words to heart. He says, you have to be on the air at least 10 years before you get comfortable enough with that microphone in front of you to be any good at talking into it. Now, at the time, I'm going, oh yeah, you know, I'm thinking myself, yeah, right. It was the truest bit of advice I had ever gotten. Because once you sit in front of a microphone, and whether you go, in the beginning you try to pull your voice and it's like, hello and welcome to our show, to make you sound like a quote-unquote radio person. Until you get comfortable enough with the microphone that you're talking just like I'd be talking to any one of you, like it's back and forth. That's the total comfort level of being on the air. But he was right. It didn't happen in 2 years, although I achieved in 2 years. I got a little ahead of myself. And I started to think, man, I'm a shooting star. I'm just going right to the moon and stars. I'll be angry with CBS Even News in about 5 minutes. That didn't happen. But that was good advice for me. So whatever you decide to do, good luck. And it's a hell of a business. Give you a hell of a ride. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Steve. And I think something you said earlier is very true. If you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. This next lady has come full circle. Mara Todd attended one of our Broadcast Pioneers student symposia in 2003, exactly 10 years ago. Now she's executive producer and creative services for WPBI 6ABC here in Philadelphia. had a much more interesting bio, but she told me most of it wasn't true, so I had to leave some of it out.
It makes me sound good. Say whatever.
Mara studied at Villanova, and she managed to land an internship in creative services at Channel 6. And when that ended, the station hired her part-time while she was still in school. A few weeks after graduation, she was offered a full-time permanent job at WDAS, and she's been there ever since. And now, as Paul Harvey used to say, for the rest of the story, Mara met her husband at the station. He's Brian Taft, anchor of the Action News 4 p.m. newscast, and he also does the 10 p.m. news at WDAS. Mara, you're much closer in age than the rest of us, all these things. So, what's your best advice?
Oh my gosh, well, I'm honored to be sitting on this panel with such great people. I've learned a lot. This is amazing advice, so to follow that is tough. But I was literally, like you said, in your seat about 10 years ago, and I took the one internship position that scared me. So my advice for you right now is to do something that's going to challenge you. Don't do something that you know you'll love. Right now is your time to test drive a career. And I took a position that scared me. I walked in and I had never seen a non-linear editing system. And it had colored keyboards and 2 screens, and I'm like, what the heck is that thing? I don't know how to use it. I don't consider myself computer savvy, but I fake it till I make it. Sort of like what Steve was saying, just say yes. I knew I'd be able to learn, and I walked in there and I said to myself, I'm gonna learn how to do this, so I'm gonna get as much experience out of this as I can so another station would be able to hire me. The man who hired me that day is now still my boss, and he said to me, you know, just so you know, this won't turn into a full-time position. That was my first day. I said to myself, okay, well, I'm gonna work hard enough so this guy will want to hire me, so they will have to hire me because you want to become that go-to person. So I learned everything I could, and sure enough, they hired me, and it was, like I said, part-time temporary. I spent a summer living on couches, air mattresses, friends' apartments. I wasn't sure if I should sign a lease. I didn't know where I'd be. I worked late on Friday nights as a college student, so as you know, that means missing happy hour, and that's okay. That's not important. 10 years later, I have a job that I love, and I love being here speaking about it because it's easy. Like everyone else said, it's not a job. So, how do you get that job? How do you get that internship? How do you get that position? I'm going to share a little advice with you. I did manage our internship program over at the station for the past few years. So I've seen a lot of good, bad, and ugly, and it can get very ugly. So, first things first, do not have any typos on your cover letter. Have a friend check it, take it to the Career Center and check it. You won't believe how many applications we get for 6ABC, and someone's going to be a great asset to 6ABC, and over at Channel 3, I'm going to be, and I'm like, no, like you didn't even double check. You didn't change your call letters on your application. So, do your research about the person and the company that you're interviewing with. Know about 6ABC if that's where you're going. Know if you have an internship interview with Linda, know what she does. It's flattering. And it's easier than ever now that you can just Google anyone. So, right now, while you're here on campus, there are amazing resources that if you're not taking advantage of them, you are missing a big opportunity. Obviously, you have state-of-the-art equipment that was generously donated. You guys have to get on that, have to take advantage of it because you won't have resources like that once you graduate. So if you think you might be interested in television, but you might also be interested in radio, try it on campus. Get involved. Look it up tonight when you get home. If you're not already involved in the TV station, go try something there. Even if you think you won't like it. Hello, nonlinear editing, I'm still doing it and I love it. Learn how to write really well, because any job in this business, you have to be a good writer. I love writing, so that came easily and hopefully naturally. But if it's not something that you're strong at, go work with a newspaper and start a blog, something. Same thing with radio. If you're maybe interested in radio, jump on over to the radio station. Also, a big thing that helped me when I was at Villanova University is I took advantage of our Career Center. They will give you invaluable input on your resume that'll make it stand out from other people's. And also the cover letter that will have no typos on it. And any student advisors or teachers you have, talk to them about your career thoughts. And sometimes getting their perspective is going to give you really good insight into what you actually want to do. Because you might have your mind set on doing one thing. Oh, I really want to be a TV producer. But you might find out that you love radio, or you might find out that you want to be on the other end of the camera, or you might be really surprised by what that person kind of sees as your strengths and what they might suggest in terms of challenging yourself, because as someone else mentioned, you really do have to diversify. You have to be that person that can say yes and can get every job done. So do as much as you can right now. Like I said, it's test drive time, so take advantage of it.
And I want to amplify that. Do as much as you can here on campus with the wonderful facilities you have. I was fortunate enough to spend 3 years working at WHYY-TV, which at the time was right here at Annenberg Hall, and that was an invaluable experience for me. TUTV, the current WHYY, other facilities here at the university and where you may go to school, they are learning laboratories. They are places where you can afford to make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. Take advantage of that, because once you get out in the world, it's much riskier to make those mistakes. So, now, Kal, I'm not giving you the microphone again.
I think I want to start my career over again, and I think creative services sounds like a good way to go, but I don't know what that is, and I don't think our audience here. So would you tell us what you really do?
I would love to. Thought you'd never ask. So creative services, most people don't know. If you asked me 11 years ago what creative services did, I would say I have no idea. And first question most people ask me is, oh, is your name at the end of the credits? The second question is, oh, well, what show were you on? The answer is no, and none of the above. Creative services is essentially the in-house advertising agency for the station. So we handle all the on-air promotion, image campaigns. Basically, we're taking our brand and marketing it around the region as the #1 station to go to. You have to watch our weather. You have to watch our parade every Thanksgiving. So any special events that are going on in the station, which there are countless each year, as Linda will be able to tell you. If there's a big event going on in Philadelphia, chances are our station is a part of it. And it's the Creative Service Department's job to make sure that our viewers know about it. Because again, we need those eyeballs. That's what keeps us in business. So it's fun. It's a marketing, advertising world combined with the fast-paced, exciting world of television where you're on deadline.
It's a more accurate term for what used to be called promotion.
Yeah.
Can you consider taking on Kal as an intern?
Have to apply.
As the shy girl up here, I just want to encourage all the talented shy people. When I was your age or a year older, I went for my first job interviews right at the Temple. And I just want you to know, it's sort of unimaginable that I ended up having such a great career, because at my first interview, my glasses steamed up. And then I took them off, and I kept talking and smiling and trying to concentrate, and I put them back on, and they steamed up 3 times in a row. I was so nervous. I want to tell you one other shy person success story. Joe Medeiros, who was a great graduate of this department and made a film with me here in 1973. He's an extremely shy man. He was the head writer for Jay Leno. Joe actually has an alter ego as a performer because he can't be Joe Medeiros in front of people. He's a great blues player, and he goes by the name Papa Joe Bravo. He's also got a new film out recently, a new documentary. But Joe is the head writer of Jimmy Lemmon. Joe's painfully shy. So if you know you're talented, as I knew and know still that I have been blessed, you can even get around being shy. There's always a workaround. You can trust me on that. If you want it enough, there's always a workaround.
Thanks, Liz. I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine who just was able to join us, Rosemary Reese, who's an adjunct instructor here at Temple, and I understand you have most, if not all, of your news, writing, and media relations classes. Is that right?
I hope so.
Raise your hands, guys.
I don't know where you all are, but a lot of you are here, so thank you.
Good. Well, glad you could join us.
Thanks for
And
that.
I thank Kal for getting our question and answer period started. It's your turn now. I'm going to come through and see who has some questions. Raise your hands. Don't speak until I give you the microphone, because we need to get your voice on the video so that people who watch this later on will know what you're asking. So, who's got a question? Young lady right here.
How do you make yourself stand out from every other person? Like you said, you had hundreds of applicants for your internship. How do you make yourself different than every single other person?
Well, it does begin with that cover letter and resume. And no, Ms. Kelly says in her watching, but I mean, we're ferocious about that. She'll say something. Her former, she was at your boss.
She hired me.
Yeah, Caroline, she would throw right in the trash. I'll at least read it. But, you know, when you have so many applicants, the first standout thing is that they presented themselves well. And the format of the resume and the cover letter should be all about you. It should be the first entree in impressing us that you know something about the station and the internship. So that's where you stand out. Then once you get there, you have to develop a personality ahead of time. As I said, be interested and interesting. Both together will make a strong presentation.
Anyone else care to address that question?
Just want to jump in on the resume cover letter thing. Neither should be more than one page. Keep it all nice and tight and neat. And also, part of an internship interview is making sure that your personality is as comfortable to be around. You know, be yourself, really. The employer wants to know that they'll enjoy having you as part of the team. So be comfortable, be yourself. You'll probably be nervous, which is also a good thing, because we want to know that you take this seriously. So being nervous is okay. Even if your glasses steam up, it's totally okay.
Linda and Mara, let me ask you a question. How do you get or prefer to get resumes these days? I know in my business, we get almost everything, almost all applications and resumes now coming through email. Is that your experience, or do you still prefer the paper sent by mail?
I get them in both forms, many, many more email applications than in the past. The snail mail applications, let me take my time getting, you know, send an email every day, say you want an immediate response. Sometimes I get 5 inquiries. Did you get my material? It's annoying.
My best advice on that is to follow the instructions. If the internship description says mail your application to, and the address is included, then send it in to the address. If they instruct you to email, then email. So.
Go to 6abc.com. There's a lengthy site there that will give you details.
Steve?
Okay. And you mentioned this. You're going to be going to an interview with someone, and somebody is going to have the ability to hire you, and you're going to be nervous. You'll be shaking in your boots, and you're also young and inexperienced. And so that's to say to be, be personable and self-assured and be great and assertive and everything else is probably more easy. It's easier said than done. But I guess, because one of the things that you will develop is your own personality over time, but that comes with life's experience. So in the beginning, it's not always so easy to do, but, you know, eventually that'll come through.
You met your question about standing out. How do you stand out from the rest? My suggestion would be, at this point in your life, at this point in your activity, find somebody on the air, on television, or on radio, or both, that you admire, that you really feel they get your attention, you enjoy whatever it is they do. A news reporter, anchor, and so forth. And at this point in your life, imitation, I think, is a worthwhile category. Imitate that person on tape yourself. Try to use the inflection that that person uses if you feel that person is really good. Now, as time goes on, you'll develop their professionalism, their polish, in a sense. Eventually, your personality will take over. So it'll be you then. But in the beginning, just find out what you feel is a professional that you really admire, you really enjoy, in whatever field you want to go into, in what particular category. Imitate that person on tape. Do it again and again and again, and the polish on the apple will eventually show, but also your personality will show through that as well. And it'll be you, not that person, a couple of years later.
Thank you. All right, next question. Nobody has a question? Do I send you all one?
Hey, so I was told, I was speaking to someone that was pretty involved in production recently, and they were telling me that if you want to get a job in a certain city, I went to school in New York, I'm kind of torn between New York and Philly. So the idea was, if you want to work in a certain city, you should go there immediately and establish your reputation there, is what you told, or what that person told me. But given how the media seems kind of fluid, you know, you transfer around a lot, is that really true? Or should I just try to get a job that works and worry about location later?
What kind of work is it you're talking about?
Well, I would be interested in, as of now, writing, and I do a little bit of broadcasting in the way I podcast. So, yeah, a little on-air stuff as well.
Nobody's going, if you're thinking New York or Philly to start out on for your first gig, forget it, ain't gonna happen. Just not gonna happen. You're gonna have to go to some small market, work your way up, apply your trade, hone your craft, and get good. One of the things I mentioned before is that everybody has this overinflated sense of how good they are. I mean, I was guilty of it. I mean, everybody gets, that's why I told the story about Long John Wayne. Everybody gets into business and thinks they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's just not true. Because you're too, even if you have raw talent that can be cultivated, it's got to be cultivated. And it's like, if you're going to be a broadcaster, and there's a microphone here, and you're talking into that microphone, you got to be comfortable. You can't be anything but yourself, and until yourself comes through the microphone, forget about working like in a top 5 market, top 10 market, top 50 market. It's not going to happen. But you have to, it comes from dedication, commitment, drive, enthusiasm, and honing your craft to be as damn good as you can be. And you'll know when you got to that point. You know, you'll send out tapes and resumes. Tapes? No, I'm showing my age. You'll send out things to display your talents on whichever format, and resumes, and you'll turn down a lot. And hopefully the people that will turn you down will tell you why they turned you down. And one of my bugaboos about the business is, you'll apply for a gig, and if they're not going to hire you, they just won't take your call. It's like you don't exist anymore. When what you really need is somebody to take your call. The best advice I've ever gotten in my life is from program directors who didn't hire me, but took my call and told me why they didn't hire me and what I had to do to get better at what I'm doing in order to get hired by somebody. Best advice in the world. But there's too many people in this business that if they're not going to hire you, you're dead to them. Not good, but it's a fact of life. But start out getting good, improving yourself. Listen to, dare I say it, tapes, or whatever. Listen to yourself, air check yourself, always listen to what you're doing. Say, well, I'm doing this wrong. I remember when I went to talk radio and I was a rock jock, and it scared the living hell out of me to think about the prospect of doing talk radio. And the first time I went on and did it because the program director thought I could do it. And I went on WWDB at the time, which was a talk station, which is now, what is it called, 96.5? No. Wired, thank you. It's now Wired 96.5. But at one time, way back when, it was a talk station. And I taped myself in the first talk show I ever did. And here's what I heard. And we're here on WWDB, and I made myself crazy. Because every time I should have taken the pause and said nothing, I said, which is an anathema in talk radio, because it drives listeners crazy. But then you learn if you have nothing to say, or you need a pause, take one. Say nothing, and pick it up. It's better than an
Or a like.
Or what?
Or a like.
Oh yes, exactly, yes.
Jerry, I want to share with everyone is before deciding what market you want to establish yourself in, practice, and develop records of the work that you do, whether you're a technical person or talented. There are conventions. You know, you can go to NABJ even if you're not black. You can go to the Asian American Conference even if you're not Asian. And all outlets are represented. Never been to a conference, think about saving your money. It's a great investment to make because you'll have hundreds of representatives from all kinds of markets who will look at your reel, give you advice, you'll be able to explore. Did any of you ever think about doing that? You've heard of these conferences, right? I think it's a tremendous investment for a young person who's about ready to launch a career to make in themselves. And then you're exposed to the people who do the hiring, the people who do the selecting. Channel 6 participates in that, as do many, many other stations, networks participate. Then you'll have a testing ground. You'll get reaction from a variety of people. Because you might have a quirk that they're dying to find for Nebraska. Or that, you know, the person who runs the station in Rockford, Illinois, wants. And that's how people get jobs in these markets. And you'd be surprised. It's a whole lot less than tuition. Maybe for $1,000, you can go spend 3-4 days at a conference and plan your schedule and really connect with those people who are in a position to hire and critique your talent.
And you know, you don't have to set your sights immediately on the major markets and things. You've got to be there. You know, there are thousands of great places in this country. If you've never been out of New York or Philadelphia and traveled the country, you haven't really seen very much. It's a great country out there. There are a lot of good markets, and you get a lot of good experience almost anywhere. All right, next question.
When taking a risk, how do you decide what's the right risk to take as far as like moving or, you know, trying to forward your career?
Make a list. Make lists for everything.
I heard a great anecdote from Channel 6 broadcaster Jeff Koversky last week that right out of Temple, who he had really invested a lot of time into doing play-by-play, and he followed my student, Kevin Nagandi, who I taught here from ESPN. He followed Kevin into those roles in ESPN, or play-by-play at Temple. So he got himself a job, a sports weekend job in Georgia, Macon, Georgia. Moved there from Bensalem, Pennsylvania, got an apartment, ready to start work, showed up for work, and they said there was no job. There was no job. He had moved, he had an apartment, he had an investment, and there was nothing. So did he make a wrong guess? Did he take the wrong risk? Who knows? It may have been the launch of Kevin Nagandi's career. Between saying goodbye to Kevin at Temple, where I taught him, and then he was the top graduate of the program when he graduated. Next time I saw him was, I don't know, 8-9 years later on the air in Sarasota, Florida. you know, which was the beginning of a great career toward ESPN. So Macon could have been the Sarasota for Jeff, but it turned out to be a complete emotional disaster. But he picked himself up, he had made friends, he had networked well, and he ended up on the air in Atlantic City. And you know what's funny? Atlantic City is a small market. A lot of people, you can commute to a small market in Atlantic City. You can commute if you were lucky enough to get a small market job in Lancaster, in Lebanon. And so it's within reach to go to a small market. It doesn't always involve going to Macon, Georgia, but you know, everything's a crapshoot. Every single thing is a crapshoot. So I say you're just better off increasing your odds by taking as many reasonable chances as you can take.
And persistence pays off as well. I guess I'm really in the minority. My first job in radio was in Philadelphia. I guess you could say, Cal, I was sort of grandfathered in. But when I made the transition from broadcasting over to sales and marketing, interviewed with the sales manager, and it took them 5 months to hire me. 5 months. I went back for 3 interviews, and the sales manager's concern was, well, WDAS, who you'll primarily be working for, is our key station. If WDAS FM doesn't do well, then the whole cluster doesn't do well from a sales perspective. So it took him a long time to do that. And in the final interview, he said, Doug, can you sit in that cubicle for 8 hours a day? I said, no, because I'll be out on the street making deals. And the look on his face. But that's what it took to get them to hire me in a sales and marketing position. And what everyone down on the panel has mirrored as well. Yes, it's rare to start out in a major market, so particularly in these days you have to move to some of the secondary and tertiary markets just to hone your craft and get your skills together. But network, and if everyone hasn't done so already, hey, make the investment in yourself. Go to Staples, spend the $25 to $30 and get some nice business cards that just have your contact on there. And when you get to the point where you change your email address or you change your cell number, don't scratch it out and still distribute the cards. Go get new ones, make another investment. So that's part of the overall initial image that you want to project.
Does it help you to know, I mean, it seems so many years ago, but I started in the business as the assistant business manager at Channel 48 WDAS because I had run a nursery school, a Montessori nursery school with 12 employees. I knew how to do payroll, taxes, I knew HR, human resources, benefits, and had that on my resume. They needed an assistant business manager, totally flew, and they hired me. And I hadn't intended to be in television, but I walked in the door and fell in love with the whole idea. Now, I was a performance major here at Temple, so I've never been shy. And as a performance major, you learn how to be in front of an audience, how to use your voice, how to try not to miss the notes if you have a solo. And I was also a theater minor. So all the things I did before getting into television served me well. So when they had an opening, and here's the point of the story when you say take a risk, there's an opening in what was then called promotion, creative services. I loved fun. I paid attention to everything in that television station. I volunteered to help a producer produce his show. I said, what's a producer doing? You do that, as Steve said. But when the opening came in promotion, it was the two-person promotion department. That second person had to edit on-air promos, radio promos, write, do TV guide ads, write for our kids announcer, and do the program listings, not to mention all the correspondence. I wanted that job. I applied. He said, I can't hire you. You have no experience. I said, tell you what, I'll do the job for free for a month. If you don't like my work, don't hire me. So I did my full-time assistant business manager job and the promotion job. The next time I wanted to move up, we had a GM who said I could be on air. He got fired. We got another GM who saw my tape and said, hey, I need a new show. Can you create a show? I said, I can do that. But that's how you decide, you know? much are you risking? What are you really going to lose if you try something and make a deal?
Now, there are so many things happening in the last 5 years that is going to be great for you because the industry has expanded incredibly. Well, years ago when I first started, if you were from this area and you wanted to be in broadcasting, most of the time you'd go to a station and say, well, we'd hire you, you don't have any experience, you got to get experience. Well, how can I get experience if you won't hire me? And in those days you had to go down to North Carolina, maybe to Georgia. You had to go south, far south, before you found the station that would hire you with very little experience. I was lucky, the furthest south I went was Vineland, and then I worked myself back to Philadelphia. But it is difficult because most of the people at your major stations will not hire someone without experience. So how do you get experience? What Liz said, go to many small markets in the Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey area. Small radio stations, cable stations, small TV stations. They will hire someone that doesn't have that much experience, but has a little bit of a delivery that they feel is pretty good for their station. And that's where you'll get that beginning. And 6, 8 months at a small station, doing it every day, your delivery will be fantastic. And then you'll be able to work your way back to a major market station. But you have to put in the dues, basically. But because there are so many things happening today, you go on the internet, there are cable stations you can work for. You are broadcast pioneers now. You are, like years ago, the organization wanted to change its name because broadcast pioneers, that means you're old. And it was true in the sense people think of it as being old. But today, you, each and every one of you here, are pioneers in the internet. Pioneers in an industry that's growing in so many ways to give you a career years down the line. And years ago, for example, with my station, if you put a pin in the Ben Franklin Bridge, in the Delaware Memorial Bridge here, you went maybe 45, 50 miles as a radio station. And that was all, that was it. Well, the last 10 years I was doing Drexel basketball. We not only broadcast in the Philadelphia market, but we were on the internet with our website, and we'd be coming home from a game, and one of the players would come up to me and say, oh, my mom and dad were watching the game because we not only broadcasted audio, but we broadcasted video, live video, live TV. So the player would come up to, a couple of the players would come up to me and say, my parents heard the game, they watched the game, they really enjoyed it, thank you for it, they wanted to say thank you to you. And I knew that that player, her family was from Lithuania, another one was from Belgium, another one from London. Their parents and their friends and family were watching the game on the internet. Now, can you imagine that? When years ago you went 40 miles and that was it? Or if you were on the network, you might have gone even further as a network, but most of the radio stations and TV stations serve an area of X number of miles. Today, it's around the world. So you do have an opportunity, if you could, as a matter of fact, if you want to be creative, think of a program that would be acceptable and would be interesting and would be saleable to people outside of our country. It's, whoever comes up with a good program, like YouTube, but YouTube is not a program. YouTube is just a number of different things, and once it's on, it goes around the country. But if you can think of a program that services people no matter where they live, you can have a major hit of a program, and a lot of money-making activity is in the future. So think along that line.
All righty, I've switched to the other side of the room, so do we have a question here? I'll call on a faculty member. Rosemary?
Hi, my news writing class is learning from you tonight. And I'm trying to teach them how to write things that you'll accept and pitches that you'll go for. Is there anything they should absolutely not do or absolutely should do that would help them in this regard?
Pitches are news stories.
Yes, both.
Well, writing news depends on where you're from, who you're writing for. Sometimes I find students think that they write in their voice. Jim Gardner needs a writer who can write his voice. Vernon Odom needs a writer who can write his voice. You know, Liz Matt, if she's reading somebody else's script, needs to write for her. You need to recognize, understand, and digest for whom you're writing a news story, it's got to be factual and it's got to have correct grammar. And it needs to be reflect the voice of the reader. And if you watch television news, if that's what you're interested in, you need to be passionate about watching it because the styles are very, very different. And I think Liz or I could write for Barbara Walters and I could write for Julie Walker because you listen to who they are, what their humor is, what their inflection is. Many years ago, I used to think Barbara Walters was it, but she has a terrible speech impediment. And so, if you listen. So it is imperative that you be flexible in that because it's not print. Your stamp is on there. People look forward to seeing that style, not television, unless you're in the town. Fortunately, I always work for myself. So it's easier, isn't it, Liz? But when I did Visions or when I did Primetime, I was writing for Gary Papa. Whoever you're writing for, is that person, how does that person deliver? What makes them who they are as talent? So that's something they need to learn.
I want to pivot for a moment of something you said about making sure you're watching the station. We have a public relations firm, and a lot of times when we interview people to hire, we ask them, what do you watch on television or listen to on the radio? And it's amazing the number of people who don't pay attention to the news, are not current in public affairs, are not paying attention to the world around them, but are just listening to music. And in a business like broadcasting, in a business like public relations, you have to know what's going on in the world around you, because that's what you're going to be dealing with in your job. So, get away from the iTunes, start listening to as many different things as you possibly can. All right, do we have another question over on this side?
Hi, I realized nobody introduced themselves before they asked the question, so just in case you don't know, you don't know. Okay. My name is Richard. I found a paradox in all of your speeches, which is also my dilemma. On one hand, the reason I want to be in this field is because I'm passionate, I want to be creative. So as long as my ideas are presented, I don't care about jobs, money, or anything. But on the other hand, I have to make a living. I'm also a shy person, so I don't want to meet any of you at all. Just kidding. I'm still interested in the Chinese game thing, but anyway. So my question is, how can you change yourself from being happy to being happy and realistic?
Why do you have to change yourself?
You don't seem shy.
I mean, adding realism and being realistic to me doesn't necessarily kick happiness out the door, does it? I
As we said earlier, if you're doing what you love,
yeah, I think you guys should think about forming cooperatives. You live in dorms, some of you, or apartments, and roommates stay that way. It's what Liz was saying. You get a big apartment and split it each, have 5 people pay $200 a piece and live in relative luxury. I make a very good living, and I make my house a cooperative. Both my kids are musicians, and they're living with me very comfortably. But unless you have a life, but I can't emphasize more what Liz has said. If you don't have families, if you don't have kids, if you're still single, find a place and people you like, and live together, and enjoy life, and don't pay bills.
And if nothing else, it'll give you some great experiences to write the next hit sitcom.
And you have support for you.
Jerry addressed that, you're addressing that. Grow each other up in the business. Do it through these clans of friends that you love and trust, care about, notice, make friends with the people who are talented. You just have seen them across the room. They're in a different production group. Joe Medeiros, the guy who went on to become the head writer of The Tonight Show, he and I never met until senior year. But I was aware of him, he was aware of me, and another guy who was talented. And we sought each other out in that senior year of film class when they said, well, you've got to work in teams. After we graduated, we all started making productions out of our own pockets, on our own time, at night, on the weekends. That's really what established my career. A Temple teacher said, you know, that was a pretty cool idea you had in class, a television production class. That's what he said. He didn't say, here's how to make it happen, here's how to grow up and get a job doing this. He just said, that was good. So we then said, that's all we needed to hear. And we spent all our time, nights, weekends, creating this television show. People had different talents, different capabilities. The one guy's father had been a freelancer, so he knew how to do all these things I addressed tonight. His father's a freelance graphic artist, but he was fearless about setting up meetings, networking us. I brought other things to the table. The other two people brought their gifts. But eventually, so Joe went on to become head of The Tonight Show. On my small production group, one guy's still got a great living editing in NFL films, and he's a musician. I had a great career in all the broadcasting stations in Philadelphia except for Channel 10. And I still get to write every day and work in the creative field. The other guy had 2 National Emmy Awards for writing Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs. It's a guy from Levittown, PA, who commuted to Temple on the train. I commuted to Temple on the train. There's nothing magical about the places we came from. It was about the fact that we grew each other up in the business so you can have your fun, have a job that pays the bills, keep your bills low, create things. We made a movie. By the time I was 27 years old, I was one of the people to watch in Philadelphia Magazine. I can't even speak to you, I'm so shy here. But I know what I'm capable of doing. And I just encourage you to know it's possible. Believe it is possible, and you will find the method.
We've been talking about finding that first job, being hired by some company, by some radio or TV station or cable or whatever. I want to throw out something that's a little bit different. It's thinking outside the box, and it combines several things that Doug said about sales and what Liz said about being creative and freelancing. We have a gentleman here in the audience, one of your colleagues, has been doing it for a little while, but many people who wanted to be in this industry but couldn't get a job necessarily at that moment, way back. And right now, they've been, some of the people I'm thinking about, have been in the business for 30, 40 years and making a living and making a career out of broadcasting, and they were never really hired by any radio or TV station. Some of you might know some of the people I'm talking about. How many have heard of Gerry Klein? All right. How many have heard of Bob Pantano? All right. Barry Reisman. Some of you might have heard of Barry Reisman. He's a broadcast pioneer. These people thought outside of the box many, many years ago. And you can do it yourself. Anyone here, if you want to be an entrepreneur in addition to a broadcaster, but use your intellect, your very little experience, but passion to become a broadcaster. And there are many stations in this Philadelphia, South Jersey area that will give you an hour's worth of time for a couple of dollars. You can make an arrangement with one of those stations, and there are several in this area. Get an hour's worth of time once a week. Once you have determined that an hour is available to you, you could play all Beatles, you could play all Presley, you could do all talk. Any specialty that you think you could do easily, you could buy an hour's worth of time before you actually make the contract. Go out and sell all of your friends to be a sponsor on this program. Once a week, an hour on Sundays or Saturdays or Tuesdays or whatever. And actually, the reality is today, any one of you, if you have that entrepreneurship and thinking of sales, as Doug mentioned, you could probably make yourself anywhere from $500 to $1,000 doing a 1-hour program once a week. You can buy an hour's worth of time at several stations for approximately, I'll say, $200, $300, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, but in that vein. Buy an hour's worth of time, sell it. You can get the money enough to pay for the hours worth of time, and whatever's left over goes into your pockets. Now again, this is totally outside the box, thinking in a different way, but it's also one of the avenues, and eventually you could be hired by someone, because by that time you'll have enough polished experience to make your delivery much better. But think about that as a possibility. It's not easy. You have to really do it effectively, and I suggest to all the people that have done that on my station as well as other stations, you develop a program in your mind that you want to do. Again, just an hour. You don't need much more than that. And you know you're going to do it once a week. Now, before you actually sign the contract, you make sure you sell a 26-week contract of advertising. So you don't have to go out and selling every day, every week. You get a contract from a half a dozen or a dozen people, and you'll be able to support yourself on the air with a program that you dream of.
With all due respect to my friend Pat, that's not a road I would travel. I mean, it may be outside the box. It may be something you might decide you want to do if you have this true entrepreneurial spirit. But I would suggest that you hone your craft and get good at what you do. Because if you go on some radio station, it's going to broker an hour of time to you, and you're going to go on there and make an ass out of yourself for an hour, and whatever. Because filling an hour of broadcast time is a lot of time. It's not easy. It's not a walk on the beach or a day in the park. And I would suggest, in deference to Matt, he was talking about thinking outside the box, and you got to be creative and expansive in your thinking. But if you really love this business and you really want to succeed at it, and eventually make money, have a nice house, have a nice car, make a great living, doing what you want to do, and doing what you love, then get good at what you do first. It's the natural progression of things. Is go to a station, any station, and say, I want to work, and put money out of your mind. Because if they hire you and let you in their doors and pay you nothing, they're paying you something, and they're paying you an experience and things that you cannot put a price tag on. The things you're going to need and cultivate in order to get good and to eventually get the big payoff. But in the beginning, you got to take baby steps. Go out there if you're committed. I want to do this. And you got to have that fire in your belly and that passion. Say, this is what I want to do, darn it. Then go out and get it. But you have to go out and get the skills needed in order for you to succeed.
You guys may not realize it, but you have so many more resources available to you these days in terms of the technology. It makes it so much easier to do what you want to do and to get that out and heard by other people. I mean, when we were all coming up, we had to work with audio tape. You had to use a razor blade to splice it, and it was very difficult to copy. And you made enough copies, you couldn't. You got distorted, you couldn't hear it anymore. The digital world is a revolution. Learn it and take advantage of it, because it's really going to take you a lot of places. Young lady has a question.
Hi everybody, my name is Julianne. We were talking about the fact that we have come up to like a digital age and stuff, and that we have a lot more opportunities such as YouTube. And especially wondering from the special YouTube ladies that hire interns and whatnot. Do you take people that produce stuff like us on like YouTube and stuff, which is a big place now? Do you take that into consideration when choosing interns, or is that kind of not really applicable to experience that you guys are looking for?
If it's something you produced and it's something you worked on, that's experience in our eyes. That's something that you've done yourself. You don't specifically require it or look for it. I'm always impressed when students show up for interviews and they're not empty-handed. So don't show up empty-handed. And that includes like put a link on your resume or come with information on how we can find your work, whether it's on a DVD or whether it's a business card with your link on it. Because usually I'll ask for writing samples, and and to send me some writing samples. I probably won't read them, but guess what? If they don't send them to me, I don't want to hire that person because they're not following up on the first instructions that I gave them. So, to answer your question, I think that's great. If you have work you did, put it on YouTube, put it on Vimeo, whatever avenue you choose, get it out there, show, because that's your experience. And the solution to the employer who says, well, we only hire someone who has experience, is having that experience right now, while you're at Temple, while you're in school, wherever you go to school. Get that experience now, get those radio and television interviews down. Do that now, because that is experience, and then prove that you're a fast learner. If someone tells you we need someone with experience, come with proof of how you are a fast learner. Someone gave me this project, and within 3 months I had it done, and I didn't even know how to edit. So really, it's good to put your work up and show it up. You guys have experience, and own it.
And when you talk about digital platforms, it is not the next big thing, it is the now big thing. Television consumption has changed. More people are using DVRs and watching television programs online. Radio consumption has changed. Satellite, iHeartRadio, all of the digital platforms. Certainly, newspaper circulations have declined because of all of the digital technology. So know what you're talking about. I just got a job position at Clear Channel, Philadelphia, and came over today for a digital content director. Now, what do? They work with all of the 6 websites to manage the local alerts, the dynamic leads, the push-down ads, the Rovion technology, the rich media, the display ads, the pre-roll videos, the email blasts, the social media integration. So you have to know all of these assets. When you open up a website, you should be able to look around and say, oh, okay, that's push-down technology right there. Oh, somebody walks out on the street, that's rich media, Rovion technology. And know these assets. But this position is available. It has changed television, it has changed radio, and it's going to change the future.
And much of what he has listed, our interns get to interact with. We ask our interns to shoot video right for our social media.
All right, we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. And I saw a hand up over on this side of the room. I'm going to get the microphone to him.
Hello, my name is Artik Shaker, and this question is directed towards Ms. Unit, right? Even though it's more radio oriented, I come from a background of audio work and music and audio engineering production, and I was wondering if I could know a little bit more about your journey, how you use some of your music background and something like that to get into the field of broadcasting. Maybe I can do something like that to get into a field of radio or something of that nature.
I didn't use my music background to get into it. I used my business background to get into television. As I said, but I can tell you that performance has always been, think generic performance. I don't think I had maybe 2 paid jobs as a trumpet player, and my degree is in instrumental music performance. I had a number of jobs doing voiceovers, Liz said, so practicing how you sound in voice delivery, even though I wasn't a singer, but I did a lot of performance acting and singing here at Temple. I think you always use everything you learn. If you're not talking about performance, unless you can design audio, if you operate audio boards, if you know how to balance, I don't know how much they're doing in radio that's live like that. I understand they have a great audio program here. Do you know Brian Barber? He's working with, excuse me, cameras, but he's working because he did an internship at Sound Studios here in Philadelphia, got a reputation, he's on the road. Where is his current internship?
Oh gosh, I did keep track.
I mean, he's in demand. So while you're in school, are you still matriculating? Okay. see the counselors, see the connections that Temple has, because Sigma Sound and all these sound, you know, how good are you? Have you ever mastered sound for a concert? Okay. You have to make the connections. I can't tell you how to connect your audio training and degree to radio, because radio is, unless it's talk, it's recorded. So, depending on what you want to do. I can't emphasize enough, guys, research, read professional magazines, see what openings really exist. There's still broadcast cable. I'm sure there's, I don't remake radio magazines.
Yeah, TV Spy is a good one.
Yes. Go to the library, go to the section that you're interested in, and research. And then go to conferences. On holidays.
Do any of you know about synopsis.com? CYNOPSIS.com. It's an almost daily listserv of broadcasting jobs. A lot of them are in sales, but a lot of them for senior level positions. And even though you may not be ready for any of them, it's a great, it's very instructional when you say to see what the industry actually looks like, who makes money doing what. So synopsis.com costs nothing. Sign up for 5 minutes after you leave from here.
And there's another one besides that one. Graham Newell is full of good ideas. It's a marketing idea net, and he sends a weekly listing of jobs. And, kind of focused in the creative services promotion world, but great marketing information. Really, it kind of culminates all the promos and things that are happening in the industry now and what's happening next. So Graham Newell is one to Google.
I say again, go to conferences. There's creative services conferences. There's programming conferences. You want to know what's coming up in the business? Go to that week. Go online and find out about the National Association of Television Programming Executives. You don't have to be an executive. You pay it. You can go and see what they're talking about, what they're projecting. It might change your direction entirely.
Unfortunately, your information right now, I would like to remind all of you who are going into your sophomore year that we give scholarships. As a matter of fact, tomorrow afternoon, a committee of the Broadcast Pioneers will be selecting 17 students to be given scholarships. And we will give those students the scholarships in April. But we do it every year. And if you're going into your junior year or into your senior year, you are eligible to apply for the scholarship for next year. So keep that in mind. You can apply for a scholarship from the Broadcast Pioneers, and it's just an additional $1 to help you with your costs.
And while we're doing plugs for Broadcast Pioneers, I'm going to have Gerry Wilkinson tell you about our symposium.
In October of each year, we do a symposium. It's a little bit like this, but instead of being on a campus, it's at a local television station. And this October, it'll be at WDAS. The lady just saw me going out the door there for a second. Linda Munich is our contact there. Last year, we did it at WHYY-TV, the year before at WCAU-TV. Not that we're not friends with all the stations, but it's not done for Broadcast Pioneers, not done for the TV stations, it's done for you, so that in a 3-year period, you can see 3 different major market television stations. One question, which do you think is more important for a broadcast station, radio station especially? A very good air personality or a very good salesperson? Doug, I think you would agree, the salesperson, because I was operations manager and worked with Doug at WDAS, and Doug has a wonderful air voice, but if he can generate money for the station, remember, this is an advertising business, and so therefore the the revenue is very important. The sales guy is much harder to replace than the air personality.
Jerry, when we talked about how many of you were interested in sales, when Doug asked the question, I think we saw one of two hands. The salespeople at most radio and or TV stations usually walk out at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year with more money than most of the DJs, and in some cases, even some of the managers. Sales is a very key thing in this business, so you might want to keep that in mind. You can do on-air stuff, but like Doug does, he does it for his passion on weekends. During the week is when he earns his keep, if you will, and it helps the station stay alive.
If I may add something to that, salespeople at stations get treated far better than, well, let me relegate more to radio than TV, because I think Jim Gardner gets treated pretty well, like at Channel 6. Yeah, that's that. But people have said for years, and it's absolutely true, that the salespeople get treated far better and with far more respect than the talent does in programming at a radio station. I said, well, that's kind of weird. Why is that? That's where the money is generated. So let me just heave this grenade into the mix, if you will, is that ratings equal dollars. If you're a salesperson and you're working at a radio station that has great numbers, you don't need to be a salesperson, you're an order taker. Because you've got the numbers. And if you got the ratings, ratings equal sales. Now, if you're working for a bottom feeder of a radio station that has like Zippo, nada, zilch numbers, and you're able to sell that station, then you're a salesperson. But I mean, if your station is, if you're top rated every month and you're working for a station, you're basically an order taker. But if you can sell the station that has no numbers, as they say in Jewish, you're talking a salesperson.
I had mentioned about the entrepreneur thing, and I said that one of your colleagues here in the room has been doing the once-a-week show, and he and his father have been making money as a result of that 1 hour program, 1 or 2 hours. Brian, stand up, please. You can talk to Brian about it. He's been doing it already, making some money.
We have come to the end of our formal time, but the panel has agreed to stay here, and you can come up and talk to them, get them individually, or talk to a couple of them, and I'll be happy to take any further questions you have. And before we close, one final word, and I mean one.
One word, Cal.
Money. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Somehow or other, I got a reputation for talking at length. But for a number of years, I was the pop music expert for the Today Show, and you get 3 minutes. I prepared 6 minutes worth of earth-shaking material, but believe me, I never went over 3 minutes. And part of my background, and a lot of it came out of my experience at Temple, was co-host of the Merv Griffin Show, which I did for a long time. And before he passed away, Merv told me that the shows that I produced and did with him were some of the greatest shows he ever had. Well, the people I brought on the show were like Ringo and Aretha Franklin, so I stacked the deck. But what I want to get down to, and you notice I haven't spoken much here, but breaking my arm, patting myself on the back after all these decades where I started out as you're starting out. And you can look me up in Google, and they have videos of me as the blow-by-blow announcer for the World Wrestling Federation. Whatever job there is, you gotta do it. So I made it up as I went along. But here's the point I want to make. That, well, tomorrow is a major, major holiday. But starting next week, and this is what you want to hear. Mr. Rudman, what is it you can tell me that really makes sense? And I know what I need. I'm paying a lot of money, it'll be a big loan to be here at Temple. What can I do in the communications program and television station, in which I put, of course, a lot of money so you could have it? And I'm going to give each of you the answer right now. Is there a person available to you and you and you right here at Temple and have other students here in your program, classmates and graduates who have gotten ahead of me because they knew where to go and I didn't? But it's not too late, even as seniors. Now, he would have been here tonight, and he is, I call him the boss general of the TV station here. Brought him over here from Drexel, where he was the boss general of the Drexel program. You heard Jerry talk about his experience at W. Notice how that's pronounced? It's WHYY. And the gentleman is Paul Gluck. Who knows the name? Who knows the man? How many have had a sit down? Because every time I call him, he's having a conference with one of the students, and if it were not you, if you snooze, you lose. Quickly, you're all interested in what I'm saying? Okay? Jerry, you got your jobs. Give these kids a break. When I talk, a lot of people listen. You know that. He was a guy with no money. He started at community college, where I'm now building the 3rd television station before I get to LaSalle. In my network, that's all in the contract, of stations within the boundaries of Philadelphia. That's unique in the country. That's thinking outside of the box. We go big now. So Paul Gluck, everybody else does, and at the meetings of the broadcast pioneers, and you know that we bring students there and pay for their lunch, and I pay to bring students to the annual award banquet where we honor people that deserve it and students. I myself mention scholarships because you might say to yourself, very good, Mr. Rudman, but what are you doing for me? Well, I've been given a lot of scholarships, right?
I got 30 in the last 6 years.
So that's instead of buying trains and boats and planes, visiting Timbuktu. Set up the conversation. Paul Gluck, there are always students there from other schools. Could be Villanova. There's your competition. These are for the Olympics, right? And they come up to Paul Gluck, and he's the kind of guy that will talk with them and sometimes recommend them. A lot of jobs are filled, especially from Temple's program. They do get jobs, more than you could even imagine.
Cal, we're running out of tape. So,
see Paul Gluck.
or whatever's on the deck. We're running out. Please, thank you all for coming. Your applause for